Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Weekly Wash. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today, but before I tell you about that, let's get some other bits covered first. If you've watched any of the last few videos, you might have heard me moaning about the heat. In fact, you've definitely heard me moaning about the heat because it's all that I've been going on about. I've just been whining. But it turns out that I was actually accurate in my assessment that my body for some reason doesn't seem to deal with heat well. Because after a long day on Sunday of last week, spent about 6 hours in the 32 degree heat, cutting grass, cutting hedges, just all day back and forth with the sun bouncing off my bonnet. I spent the night with my head over the toilet, throwing up. Sorry for the graphic detail. Throwing up with stomach cramps, and then I spent the day after that completely exhausted in bed, just unable to move with a fever that was just rising more and more each day. And it's funny because I'd made a joke about that, about the fact that if you got coronavirus now and you got a fever, imagine having a fever like 100 degree fever, 102 degree fever in 32, 33 degree heat. Like, fevers are bad enough as it is. And then I went and got myself one. So it turned out that after a few calls to 111, which is the UK non-emergency NHS number, I basically got heatstroke from being in the sun too long and working as well, obviously. She said not only was the sun giving me an immense amount of heat, but actually I was already generating my own heat. So it was just this combination, and my body got to a point where it was too hot to function, basically. And it felt almost like, I thought it was heat stroke because, I mean, this is probably just imagined, but when I was sort of sitting there in the middle of the night clutching my stomach and going, why, help me, it felt as though like my stomach or something had shut down and just rejected its responsibilities. It had mutinied against me, my stomach and my bowels, and said, nah, we ain't dealing with that right now, we just need to cool off, you need to get rid of that some other way. So I did. Now that that's out the way, let's move into this slightly different episode. Today I'm just going to be talking about one important topic, and that topic is the topic of family. Because right now, as I sit here filming this, my family are actually driving down to Brighton from Leicester, and I haven't seen them since Christmas. So that's around, well, it is 8 months, and that's long enough. But with coronavirus and everything that has gone on surrounding the topic of coronavirus, I mean, caused by coronavirus, the lockdowns, the worry and fear, it's felt so much longer than 8 months. But before I talk about that in a little more detail, I'm still going to give you an actual recommendation. So I'm not departing from the norm entirely. So the recommendation I'm going to give you this week is for an article by Tim Urban on his fantastic blog, Waitbutwhy. And that article is called The Tail End. In the piece, Tim basically explains that we can calculate exactly how much time we have left with our loved ones. Let's say you see your grandpa once a year. Your grandpa's 70 years old. And if we're being optimistic even, you may only have 15 more opportunities to see your grandpa. Alternatively, if you want, you could apply this to your parents. Let's say again, you see them once a year. Let's say they have 30 years left. That is 30 more chances to feel and experience their love. 30 more opportunities for you to show them that you appreciate, truly appreciate, how much they've given to you and how much they've given up for you. And that's 30 more moments to feel their protection or just the warmth of their care. So the reason that I think this is so important in the world that we live in is that we don't truly recognize and appreciate the importance of the time that we have when we are with our loved ones. Even when I am mostly cognizant of this fact, of this shortage of time left, my hand still spasms towards my phone so that I can maybe check what's trending on Twitter instead of just focusing every last drop of my attention on the people in front of me. It's absolutely vital that we don't let ourselves forget this fact. Because here's what we need to understand. At some point, whoever they are, whoever we love, whoever we place at the center of our hearts, at some point, they are going to leave forever. And every single day, we are moving closer and closer and closer to that time. I know that might seem a bit deep and perhaps even a little bit morbid to some of you, but for me, and I think for most of us, it's the medicine that we need. Okay, so now I'm gonna layer a little bit of contemporary icing on the top of that cake. So at this point in 2020, I would say that our old normality, or at least what's left of it, is slowly beginning to seep back into our lives. But we must not forget where we were. Many mums, many dads, many grandpas, many grandmas, and other relatives were at one point, and probably, they still are, being realistic, at risk, a high risk of dying from coronavirus, or at least getting really ill from it. For a good number of months, we were all well aware of the fact that our elderly loved ones were in danger. And not only that, but we couldn't protect them, we couldn't comfort them, we couldn't help them. If they got ill with coronavirus in particular, we couldn't go and visit them in hospital. If they passed away, we probably wouldn't even be able to go to their funeral. That might have been the biggest mental worry for me during lockdown. Okay, so things are a little bit less intense now. I mean, that doesn't mean we shouldn't take coronavirus seriously. And if I'm being honest, even in the coronavirus-free times of the past, many of us don't get the chance to say goodbye to our loved ones. Life leaves some of us in the night. Life leaves some of us way before we expected to go. Of course, nothing is ever promised. The Stoics liked to keep a skull or another symbol of death nearby to them to remind them that they should enjoy life whilst it's there, because death is the only thing that's certain. And this is called Memento Mori. And for us now, in 2020, in 2021 and 2022 and so on and so forth, for the foreseeable future, I feel like we should all carry some kind of memento for the month of March. A memento March, if you will. Sorry. And the reason for this is because that's when COVID first hit, when things were looking terrifying. There were peaks every day. Hospitals were struggling to cope with the sheer amount of coronavirus patients coming in. It looked like we were going to run out of ventilators. Italy had a torrid time, and there were horrific reports coming out, but you can't just pinpoint Italy, it happened everywhere. So if you've gotten this far, you might be wondering why I've chosen this week to do this more personal and more serious video. And the reason for that is that it's something of a message to myself for this weekend. When I see my parents, my brothers, my sister, my girlfriend, when I spend this weekend with all of these people that I love, I am going to push every unnecessary stress and worry and distraction out of my mind. Nothing else matters. And so that therefore is the core recommendation for this week. The next time that you see your loved ones, give them absolutely everything. Give them all of your time, give them all of your attention, and most importantly, give them all of your love. Because for all we know, and it's probably likely, that the virus is going to peak again in the winter. I mean, Christmas could be cancelled, or, something worse could happen, God forbid. Like I said, when you're with them, as I'm going to try my absolute best to do this weekend, just be there and nowhere else. not on your phone, not in your mind, just there. Right then, that concludes a slightly deeper edition of the Weekly Wash. Next week, I'm going to return to my normal format. In fact, because it's episode 10, a bit of a milestone, I've been thinking about doing a special edition episode. An episode I'll put a little bit more effort into, which will require me to start planning as soon as this weekend's over. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that you're well. I am now going out to meet my family, which I'm delighted about. Have a lovely week. Look after yourselves, look after your family, tell them that you love them. And that'll be it. Take care. See you soon. Bye bye.